On this edition of Meathead Mondays, we are going to get into macros. What is a macro? How do you track them? How are they different from calories? And why I think that this is an essential skill that everyone should learn. Stay tuned. Here we go. So guys, coming in hot for you the next few weeks is going to be a series about nutrition, macros, counting calories, because these are questions that I get all the time. And I know that a lot of you guys have questions, and as always, there's a lot of BS out there that I need to get to busting. So on this week's edition of Meathead Mondays, to start off our nutrition series, we're going to talk about macronutrients, aka macros. So macros are short for macronutrients. In our foods, there are macronutrients, which are carbs, fat, and protein, and micronutrients, minerals, vitamins, all that other good stuff that's also really important, okay? So before we get started, I also wanted to remind you guys that anytime that we talk about calories, we're talking about calories as a unit of measurement. Calories are the way that we measure the energy density of a food, the same way that we say that, I'm 5'4" and a quarter. The quarter is very important. Don't forget it, tall, right? Or I'm driving 5 miles. It's a unit of measurement. So both carbs and protein per 1 gram of carb or protein, either one of those have 4 calories. And then fat has actually 9 calories per 1 gram. So what does this mean in layman's terms? It means that 1 gram of fat is going to have more calories, more than twice as many calories as 1 gram of protein or carbohydrate. So keep that in mind as we keep going through this video. So with this knowledge, we can figure out how many calories are in a certain amount of carbs, protein, or fat. Bear with me here. So if I have 100 grams of protein, how many calories are in 100 grams of protein? Well, we know that protein has 4 calories per gram, so 100 times 4 is 400 calories. For this reason, we see that your macronutrient numbers are always going to match up with your total calories. So the next part of this is, why the fuck does it even matter? Why should I be counting my macros instead of counting my calories if they're always going to end up being the same thing? Well, let me ask you this. So if you have, for example, 2,000 calories per day to eat, okay, there are a lot of different ways that you can ingest 2,000 calories. You could have a shit ton of soda and get to 2,000 calories. You could have a salad and get to 2,000 calories. You can have a variety of food to get to 2,000 calories. The reason that macros are so important, though, is because depending on your activity levels and your goals, we need to manipulate those ratios of macronutrients in order to help you get to your goals. So if you only know that you need to eat 2,000 calories a day, but your calories are primarily coming from carb sources or fat sources, and you're really low in protein, well, that diet's not going to be good for anyone who's looking to lose weight or gain muscle, because protein is essential. Okay, so now are you starting to see why knowing macros, what macros are, how to count them, how to track them, might be a little bit more important than calories? So with this knowledge, we can start to make better choices about our foods. For example, if we're trying to increase our protein, some people might say, hey, why don't you have some nuts for a snack? But you are someone that is counting your macros, and therefore you know that nuts are not a good source of protein. How am I coming up with this? Well, let's take a look at a nutrition label from a bag of Blue Diamond almonds that are lightly salted. Okay, so they have 170 calories, and now let's take a look at the macronutrient breakdown. We see 16 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of protein. So right off the bat here, we can see that these are significantly higher in fat than it is in carbs or protein. And furthermore, if we get out our handy dandy calculator, we see that out of these 170 calories, actually 144 of those calories are going to come from fat alone. So without even mathing the carbs and the protein, we can see that nuts are a fat source. They are not a good protein or carbohydrate source. So don't despair. This is how you guys get started tracking your macros. First of all, you're going to want to download a handy tracking app like MyFitnessPal. I highly recommend MyFitnessPal. It integrates with a lot of other technologies. So if you guys end up being one of my clients, then it's going to be easy to get in there and see what you guys are doing. So something like MyFitnessPal is going to be great. The other things that you're going to want to do are start paying attention to nutrition labels so that you can start categorizing those foods. And then you're also going to need a scale. So if you live here in Oregon, you can go to your local pot shop and pick one up, or anywhere else. And also here, of course, you can just order one on Amazon. You're going to want to look for a food scale, nothing fancy. It should cost you under $20. They're about rectangle, about the size of my head, apparently. So go ahead and grab one of those. And we want to use weights over measurements because, for example, like not all food you'll be able to get in a measuring cup and like take out like the air, right? So for example, if you're measuring a cup of broccoli with a cup instead of by weight, broccoli isn't all like one shape, right? So there's like, if you put a bunch of florets together, there's a bunch of airspace between them. So it's not really a cup, even though it literally fills up a cup. So if you guys do those 3 things, you can start tracking your macros. Stay tuned because next week we are going to talk about how to even calculate what a good macronutrient breakdown looks like for you depending on your goals. So thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Meathead Mondays with yours truly, Lady Meathead, aka Antonia from A1 Fit Coaching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, regrets, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And otherwise, please remember to save and share with your friends. So I will see you guys next week.